Zalfir stood towering in front of the broken-down spacecraft, his towering form casting a long shadow over the small human mechanic, Jenna. At nearly 10 feet tall, he seemed more like a mountain than a being, and his deep voice rumbled with each word. "Human, your machinery is inferior. It needs my strength to fix it." Jenna rolled her eyes, wiping grease off her hands with a rag. She knew the aliens' kind was known for their grandiose egos, but Zalfir's display of dominance was both laughable and intimidating at the same time. "Yeah, sure, big guy. But let's see how much strength it takes to fix this with the right tools, not your alien muscle." Zalfir didn't get it. His massive hands reached for the tools, but each one was too small for his giant fingers. The wrench slipped from his grasp as he tried to tighten the bolt. Jenna snickered, leaning against the side of the ship. "You might be too big for this job, buddy." "I am not too big, human," Zalfir growled, a hint of annoyance creeping into his voice. "I am just perfect for this." Jenna raised an eyebrow, her lips curling into a smile. "Perfect, huh? So perfect you can't even hold a wrench? That's funny, Zalfir. I thought you'd be better at this." She could see the alien's frustration mounting. His towering figure loomed over her, trying to fix something he clearly didn't understand. She couldn't help but be amused by how out of place he was. His massive hands were nothing but a hindrance. The contrast between his strength and lack of precision made it all the more ridiculous. "I will not fail," he muttered under his breath, turning the wrench in his hand with more force than necessary. But the bolt didn't budge. It snapped off entirely, sending metal parts flying across the hangar. Jenna burst out laughing, clutching her stomach. "You sure you're not overcompensating, Zalfir?" He shot her a glare, clearly not amused. "I am not compensating. I was designed for strength. I can do more than just fix your machines." "Oh, I bet," Jenna replied, still laughing. "You've got all that size, but no finesse." Zalfir seemed to struggle with the idea of finesse. He tried again, this time with even more force, his frustration growing by the second. "I was not created for this nonsense. I was built for conquest." "Yeah, well, conquest isn't going to fix this engine," Jenna said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "You can't just flex your muscles and expect everything to fall into place. You need the right tools." Zalfir paused, looking down at the wreckage of the ship. He was used to taking things by force. He had conquered planets, subdued alien species, and ruled with an iron fist. But this was different. He didn't understand why something so simple as an engine could stump him. Maybe Jenna was right. Maybe this wasn't his territory. "You think your tools are better than my strength?" he asked, his voice quieter now. Jenna smirked, wiping a tear from her eye. "Yeah. It's not all about being big, Zalfir. You've got to know how to handle the right equipment, too." Zalfir stood still for a moment, considering her words. It was a strange concept to him, working with tools, using precision, instead of just brute force. But for some reason, the way Jenna said it made sense. Perhaps there was more to Earthling ingenuity than he had given it credit for. "Fine," he finally said, letting go of the wrecked ship's controls. "I'll let you show me how it's done, human." Jenna couldn't help but smirk. She hadn't expected the giant alien to admit defeat, but she appreciated the gesture. "All right, then. Watch and learn," she said, picking up the proper wrench with ease and turning the bolt. Zalfir watched closely, trying to take note of her movements. The way her hands moved with precision, her focus entirely on the task at hand, was a far cry from his previous approach. As she worked, Zalfir couldn't help but feel a strange mix of admiration and curiosity toward her. He had expected the human to struggle, but instead, she worked efficiently. Maybe humans weren't as inferior as he had once thought. "See? That's how it's done," Jenna said with a wink, standing back after successfully fixing the engine. "No need to get all huffy about it. Just use your brain, not just your muscles." Zalfir took a deep breath, his massive chest rising and falling with the motion. "You are impressive, human. I underestimated you." Jenna raised an eyebrow, giving him a playful grin. "Underestimated me, huh? I guess you're not as perfect as you thought, Zalfer." "I am perfect," he insisted, but there was less conviction in his voice this time. "But I am willing to learn." "Good," Jenna said, clapping her hands together as if she had just won a small victory. "Maybe next time you won't destroy my tools." Zalfer smiled, though it was hard to tell if he truly understood the full weight of the joke. "Next time, I will attempt to be more delicate." Jenna chuckled. "That's all I ask. Now, let's get back to work, big guy." As they returned to fixing the ship together, there was an unspoken understanding between them. Zalfer might have been too big for some things, but in this moment, he was willing to learn. Jenna's sharp wit had pierced through his ego, but in the process, it had also opened his mind to a new perspective on strength, and perhaps even human resilience. Their bond had begun, not with conquest or grand gestures, but with a shared moment of ridiculousness. Zalfer might have been too big for this job, but maybe, just maybe, he wasn't too big to learn. And as the engine hummed to life, Jenna couldn't help but smirk again. Maybe Zalfer had a lot more to offer than she initially thought. But for now, she was content with the knowledge that she could outwit the towering alien, even if it was just for a brief moment. Zalfer had never experienced a challenge quite like the one Jenna had set before him. After their awkward first encounter, where his brawn failed to fix the ship's engine, he decided to do what any dignified alien warrior would do, demand another chance, this time with more human-like challenges. He was determined to prove that he was capable of more than just brute strength. But, as always, he was about to misjudge the complexity of human tasks. "I'm ready," Zalfer declared, his voice full of bravado. Jenna raised an eyebrow, looking at him skeptically. "Ready for what, exactly? Fixing the ship's engine again?" "No," he grunted. "I am ready for the real human challenge." Jenna couldn't help but roll her eyes. "All right, Zalfer. You're about to find out that human challenges aren't as simple as you think." Zalfer's alien pride couldn't let him back down now. He was determined to win. "I will prove that I am more than capable," he said, cracking his knuckles with a pop. The first challenge Jenna picked was something simple, a race to the other side of the hangar. But in true Zalfer fashion, he assumed it was a test of speed, so he took off running at full force. Within seconds, his foot smashed through a wall, sending concrete and metal flying everywhere. Jenna shook her head in disbelief, but a smirk tugged at the corner of her lips. "Yep, perfect. Exactly what I expected." Zalfer, now standing amid the rubble, tried to recover his dignity. "I meant to do that." "Sure you did," Jenna replied, walking over to him with a nonchalant stride. "But you're not getting any points for destruction, Zalfer. It's not about raw speed. It's about control." Zalfer growled under his breath, his frustration evident. "Explain it to me, human. You're too used to charging through everything like a bull. The challenge isn't how fast you can go, it's how you handle the obstacles in your way," she said, pointing at the damaged wall. "Like, say, not breaking everything in your path?" Zalfer didn't quite get it. The concept of control was foreign to him. As an alien conqueror, he'd only ever known to overwhelm his opponents through sheer power. He couldn't wrap his mind around the idea of taking it slow, of handling things carefully. The next challenge Jenna gave him was a simple one: carry a small crate across the room. But, of course, Zalfer's approach was anything but simple. Instead of just picking it up, he lifted the crate with a burst of force, causing the contents to spill out in all directions. The fragile items inside shattered as the crate sailed through the air, landing in a heap of broken parts. "Again," Jenna said, her voice flat. "And this time, try not to destroy it." Zalfer could feel his ego taking a hit, but he wasn't one to give up easily. This time, he took a deep breath. He bent down carefully, scooped up the crate with less force, and began walking with slow, measured steps. The crate was delicate, and this time, Zalfer made sure not to squeeze too tightly. Halfway through, however, his giant hands started to sweat, and his grip faltered. The crate tipped, sending its contents tumbling onto the floor again. His patience finally ran out. "This is ridiculous," he shouted. "Why must everything be so delicate?" Jenna crossed her arms and grinned. "Because you're a guest here. You can't just crash through everything and expect things to work. It's all about finesse, not brute force." Zalfer's mind was racing. He had conquered entire planets, led armies, commanded warships, and yet here he was, failing at something as simple as carrying a crate. "You humans make no sense," he muttered under his breath. Jenna laughed at the absurdity of it. "Trust me, you're not the first alien to say that. Welcome to Earth, Zalfer. Where finesse is king." But Zalfer wasn't ready to give up. He bent down once more, trying to take a more delicate approach, taking the crate in his hands like it was an ancient artifact. He moved slowly this time, focusing all of his attention on keeping his grip firm but not too tight. He made it halfway across the hangar, then a little more, before finally setting the crate down, completely intact. "I did it," he said, standing tall with a mixture of pride and exhaustion in his voice. Jenna tilted her head, impressed but trying to suppress a smile. "Yeah, you did. Not bad, Zalfer. Not bad at all." He beamed, but the smile didn't last long. Jenna's next challenge was the one that would truly test him, something so mundane yet so essential to human life: laundry. "Wait, laundry?" Zalfer frowned at the pile of clothes in front of him. "What am I supposed to do with this?" "Simple," Jenna said, crossing her arms. "You separate the colors from the whites, then wash them accordingly. You don't want to ruin the fabric." "I'm an alien warrior, not a laundry worker," Zalfer protested, his voice tinged with disbelief. "You're here to learn, aren't you?" she shot back. "Now get to it." Zalfer stood over the pile of clothes, perplexed by the simple task. The idea of sorting clothing was so beneath him, so beneath his station as an intergalactic conqueror, that it felt almost like a betrayal of his dignity. And yet, here he was, standing in front of a pile of dirty socks, shirts, and pants. With a grunt, he picked up a shirt and held it up to his nose. The scent of human detergent filled his nostrils. What is this smell?" he asked, his face scrunching up in confusion. Jenna couldn't help but laugh. "It's clean, that's what it smells like. Now stop sniffing and get sorting. You'll thank me later." Zalfer hesitated for a moment before beginning to sort through the laundry. He held up one shirt, unsure if it was white or light blue. He tried to remember the color-coding system that Jenna had mentioned, but to his alien brain, the shades all looked the same. "Is this white or blue?" he asked, holding it up for her to see. "Neither," Jenna replied. "It's purple." "Just go with your instincts, Zalfer." He stared at the shirt, then at the laundry basket, as if trying to unlock the secrets of human clothing. He had to admit, there was something oddly satisfying about figuring out the task, but at the same time, it frustrated him. This was the kind of thing humans did? Sorting colors and washing clothes? "Well, this is beneath me," he said with a groan. But Jenna's laughter broke through his thoughts. "You're doing just fine. In fact, you're getting better. Maybe next time you won't break anything while trying to fix the ship." Zalfer grumbled, but there was a glint of pride in his eyes. The alien warrior wasn't just learning about Earth customs, he was starting to understand why they mattered. He had learned to slow down, to handle things with care, and to appreciate the small victories, like successfully sorting laundry. As ridiculous as it seemed, Zalfer was slowly realizing that Earth wasn't as easy to conquer as he had originally thought. Jenna woke up to the unmistakable feeling of someone, or something, watching her. She opened her eyes to see Zalfer standing beside her bed, his hulking figure towering over her. His presence was still overwhelming, but something about the situation seemed almost normal now. At least, in an odd, alien sort of way. "Zalfer," she groaned, rubbing her eyes. What are you doing here? I am here to ensure the health of our progeny, Zalfar answered, his voice deep and serious. I have been reading your Earth medical texts. I believe the morning sickness is a sign of weakness. Jenna blinked, a laugh bubbling up from her chest. Morning sickness? Really? You're reading Earth medical books? Zalfar nodded, his forehead creasing in thought. Yes, it is a human condition, yes? I am trying to understand it. It sounds troublesome. But it is nothing compared to the battles I have fought. Jenna raised an eyebrow. You do realize that pregnancy isn't exactly like going to war, right? Zalfar tilted his head, seemingly perplexed. Why not? I'm ready for battle. I have fought in much worse situations. Pregnancy isn't a battle, Zalfar, she said with a sigh, sitting up in bed. It's not about fighting. It's a process. A process? Zalfar repeated, stepping back as though he was about to approach the subject like an alien artifact. But I must protect you and the child. I will fight to ensure your survival, even if it means. Zalfar, she interrupted, the only thing you need to fight is the urge to overcomplicate everything. Pregnancy is weird. It's confusing. But that doesn't mean it needs to be treated like a military strategy. Zalfar seemed to think about this, his giant frame standing rigid. Then how do we survive this process? Jenna couldn't help but smile at his seriousness, despite the absurdity of the conversation. We survive by taking things one day at a time. You know, kind of like how you managed to carry the laundry the other day. Just pay attention. Pay attention? Zalfar repeated. I have paid attention to every detail. I will keep watch. Not in the way you think, she replied, shaking her head. This isn't about keeping watch like a guard dog. It's about listening. And understanding. Understanding, Zalfar's face twisted as he processed the word. Yes. I will understand. But I must prepare. I have to make sure that the child is strong. Jenna raised a hand to stop him, her smile still lingering. We're going to be fine, Zalfar. You're here, aren't you? That's enough. There was a long silence, and then Zalfar's gaze softened, though only slightly. He sat on the edge of the bed, a mere foot from her. I will be here, human. For you. Jenna looked at him, still amazed by how things had changed between them. Just weeks ago, he had been the towering, overbearing conqueror, only interested in strength and domination. Now, here he was, sitting at her side like a partner. It was strange. Unsettling even. But somehow, comforting. All right, Zalfar, she said, breaking the silence. Let's get one thing clear. I'm the one carrying this child. You're not going to protect me from every little thing. Sometimes, I'm going to need to handle things on my own. Zalfar stared at her, his brow furrowing. But I am stronger. You don't always need to be the strongest one in the room, Jenna responded gently. You're already proving that, by just being here. You don't have to be a warrior all the time. I am a warrior, Jenna, Zalfar said, his voice low, but his tone softened. But I understand now. There are battles I cannot fight with force. Some battles require patience. I will learn how to be patient. That's a start, she said with a chuckle. You know, you're not as bad as I thought. Zalfar smiled. Well, it was a smile by his standards, a small shift of his lips. And you, human, are stronger than I ever imagined. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the weight of the conversation sinking in. Zalfar, the alien who had once believed in nothing but power, had started to grasp the concept of understanding and patience. And, somehow, Jenna felt more secure in the partnership they were building, even if it was entirely unconventional. Later that day, Zalfar's obsession with protecting Jenna only grew more intense. He insisted on taking her to a medical appointment, one that didn't require his intervention at all, but he didn't seem to care. He stood guard outside the office, his massive form blocking the door like a sentry. Inside, Jenna couldn't help but roll her eyes as she lay on the examination table, waiting for the doctor. "Zalfer is out there like he's guarding a fort," she said with a laugh. The doctor, a middle-aged woman who had become accustomed to Jenna's sarcasm, smiled. "He's just trying to help. It's a big deal for him, too." "I know," Jenna replied, her tone softening. "It's just, I'm not used to someone hovering over me all the time." "Yeah, well, you've got an alien warrior for a partner now. They're a little more hands-on than the average guy." Jenna chuckled. "Tell me about it." After the appointment, Zalfer insisted on carrying Jenna out to the car. She almost protested, but after a moment, she relented. If he wanted to feel useful, let him. But it was becoming clear to her that their relationship had started to shift in ways she hadn't expected. It was no longer just a matter of two people from completely different worlds trying to figure each other out. It was becoming something more. Something far more complicated. "You're sure you're not carrying any more surprises?" Zalfer asked with a raised eyebrow as he gingerly set her into the car. Jenna smirked. "I'm pretty sure, Zalfer. But I'll let you know if anything else comes up." "Good," Zalfer said, his voice thick with resolve. "I will protect you, no matter what." She couldn't help but smile at him, her heart warming in a way she hadn't anticipated. "I know you will. But for now, let's just get home." As they drove back, the reality of their situation set in. Zalfer's unwavering loyalty and protectiveness were beginning to feel less like a nuisance and more like something she could rely on. They weren't just learning to coexist, they were building something from the ground up, something that, against all odds, might just work. In a world where aliens and humans were meant to be at odds, maybe they had found a way to bridge the gap. Or, at the very least, they were learning to share the space. And right now, that was enough. Jenna sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug of coffee. The quiet hum of the ship's engines vibrated softly through the walls, a reminder that they were still in motion, still on their journey. Zalfer had been unusually quiet this morning, his heavy footsteps echoing in the hall as he paced back and forth. Jenna couldn't quite place it, there was something different about him today. His usual confidence seemed to have been replaced by a strange hesitation. She didn't have long to wait before he entered the room, towering over her as usual, but his posture was off. Instead of his usual imposing stance, he looked almost uncertain. "Morning, Zalfer," Jenna said, trying to break the awkward silence that lingered between them. "You all right?" Zalfer hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I have been thinking." Jenna raised an eyebrow. "Oh? About what?" "You," he said, his voice quieter than usual. "And the child." Jenna set her coffee down, the playful tone she had been using fading into something more serious. "What about us?" Zalfer took a step closer, looking down at her with an intensity that she hadn't seen before. "I have been watching you. Observing. The way you handle things, the way you adapt to everything. You are strong, human, but you should not have to do everything alone." She met his gaze, confusion and concern creeping into her expression. "Zalfer, I'm not doing everything alone. You're here, aren't you?" "But I am not enough," Zalfer said, his words heavy. "I cannot protect you from everything. I have only been focused on strength, on battle, on power. But now, I realize I need more. You need more. We need more." Jenna felt a strange knot form in her stomach. There was something about his words that made her uneasy, though she couldn't quite figure out why. She knew Zalfer had changed, but this was a side of him she hadn't expected, vulnerable, uncertain. For a moment, she saw not the alien warrior, but the creature who was struggling to understand the complexities of human life, of relationships, and of their impending parenthood. "I don't need you to be perfect, Zalfer," Jenna said softly, her voice steady. "I just need you to be here. I need you to be present." "But I am not enough for this," he said, shaking his head. I cannot give you what you need. I am too different. My ways are not yours. And the child, how will I raise something that is both human and alien? Jenna stood up, walking over to him, her steps measured and deliberate. Zalfar, you don't have to do this alone either. The baby isn't just yours or mine. It's both of us. And as much as you want to protect us, you can't do everything yourself. We have to figure it out together. Zalfar looked at her, his expression softening. He had always been a warrior, someone used to taking charge, to standing tall and commanding respect. But this was different. This was something that required not just strength, but something far more elusive, trust. I trust you, Zalfar, Jenna said, her voice unwavering. I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm just asking you to be with me. With us. He didn't respond immediately, and for a moment, they stood there in silence. Then, Zalfar lowered his head, his gaze never leaving hers. You are right, human. I have much to learn. But I will learn. For you. For the child. Jenna reached up, placing a hand on his arm, feeling the warmth of his skin beneath the surface. I'm not asking you to change everything at once. Just, don't shut me out. We can figure this out together. We can learn from each other. Zalfar nodded slowly, his massive frame towering over her but somehow feeling less intimidating. Together, he repeated, the word strange on his tongue but somehow comforting. Over the next few weeks, Zalfar's transformation continued. He wasn't perfect, far from it. He still had moments where his alien instincts kicked in, where his need to protect and control would flare up. But little by little, he began to understand. He started to take a step back when Jenna needed space, offering help when she asked for it, and even picking up on the small things that mattered. He would bring her favorite foods to the table, check in on her mood, and most importantly, he began to listen. It wasn't easy. There were still moments of tension, of misunderstanding, but the bond they were forming was undeniable. Jenna realized that she had been wrong about Zalfar in so many ways. He wasn't just a warrior, he was capable of growth, of learning, of adapting. And maybe, just maybe, they were both capable of finding something in each other that neither had expected. One evening, as the stars outside their ship glittered like diamonds in the dark expanse of space, Zalfar and Jenna sat together on the couch, a comfortable silence hanging between them. Zalfar, for once, wasn't pacing or thinking about battles. He was simply there, beside her. Zalfar? Jenna asked, breaking the silence. Yes, Jenna? He turned his head toward her, his expression softer than it had been the first time they met. Do you ever wonder how we got here? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He thought for a moment, then shook his head. I do not know how. But I know that I am here. And that is enough. Jenna smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Yeah, she agreed. That's enough. They sat there for a while, the quiet hum of the ship surrounding them, the stars outside shining brightly as they continued their journey through the galaxy. They were far from perfect, but they were learning. They were growing. Together. And that, Jenna realized, was the most important thing. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, no matter how big or small, no matter how alien or human. Because, in the end, they were learning that strength didn't always come from power. Sometimes, it came from the simplest things, from trust, from patience, from being there for each other when it mattered most. And that was a battle worth fighting for.